He cheated on me, so I pronounced him dead. So I met this guy during my senior year of college. We'll call him Rox. Rox was a great guy. There was nothing fishy about him whatsoever. He always helped me out, talked to me about personal issues most people wouldn't talk about, and I trusted him. I wanted to marry him someday. So one day he took me out to this nice dinner and proposed to me. I guess you could say I was the happiest girl alive. We had this beautiful wedding and legally got married. I was happy. So one day I was scrolling through his phone to get his mother's number because I forgot it and I wanted to ask her something. And then this girl's name popped up. We'll call her Vanessa. I was scrolling through their conversation and he seemed loyal at first, saying he had a wife, but then he gave in and ended up cheating. They sent nudes back and forth and planned to meet. I walked up to him and slammed down the phone in front of him and asked what this was. He told me that he was sorry and he could explain, and I said no. I ran out of the house and decided to stay at my girlfriend's for a bit. He texted me back a large paragraph saying he wanted to explain the reasons why he was cheating on me, claiming he wasn't justifying it. And you will not believe what he said. Come back for part 2. So he texted me wanting to explain the reason why he cheated. He said he cheated on me because I take way too much time with work and I'm so busy with college that he was feeling lonely. I asked him, why didn't you just address it with me first? He said he was too scared to in fear of losing the relationship. I didn't really know what to do at this point, but I knew I needed to distance myself in order to forgive him for a while. So I came back home the next day. Me and him sat down and talked about it, and we came up with a conclusion that he would get hobbies and spend more time with his friends so he wouldn't feel as lonely. I work at a morgue, and I do makeup on deceased people's faces. I told him I was going on a vacation to forgive him and that I needed to forgive him in order to continue this relationship, and he said okay. So I ended up going with my friend and we ended up having a ton of fun. I completely forgot about the whole entire problem and I was ready to forgive him. But then I got a DM from some random girl and she said, hey, are you dating Rox? And I said, yeah, why? She sent me a picture of a pregnancy test and a screenshot of messages between him and her, and you will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 3. So she sent a picture of a pregnancy test and messages between him and her. What he was saying was absolutely disgusting. He was saying how he loved her and how he was happy that she was having a baby. And he also said that he planned on leaving me anyways. I told her thank you for informing me and I'm so sorry she had to go through this. She also apologized as well and said thank you for not coming at me. She told me she had no idea that he was in a relationship, especially since she specifically asked if he was single or not, and she showed me the text messages to prove that. So that's when I came up with the plan. I ended up making him a fake death certificate. So I ended up showing the landlord and he gave me the lease in my name. I moved his stuff out into the hall and I changed all the locks. He was staying at that girl's place, so she helped me plan everything out. The next day he tried to come inside. He realized he couldn't. I left him a note outside explaining what had happened, and I told him to go live with his baby mama. He kept spamming my phone, banging on the door, trying everything he could to possibly get in contact with me. I just cut him off because I knew my self-worth. Always know your self-worth when it comes to cheating partners and never stay in the relationships. Cheaters are always cheaters. Follow for more story times.
Am I the asshole for leaving a family gathering and insisting my mother-in-law apologize over M&Ms? My wife, 34 female, and I, 31 female, have 2 wonderful children together, 4-year-old twins. They were conceived with my wife's eggs and a known sperm donor, and I carried/birthed them. Both kids ended up being practical clones of my wife, so it's pretty clear to everyone who contributed to the genetic material. My in-laws had everyone together at their house earlier this month. My kids were outside playing with their cousins, and my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and I were chatting in the kitchen. At one point, my 2 ran inside from playing and asked if they could have some M&Ms that they see on the counter. I tell them, no, we'll be eating in 15 minutes, you can have them after dinner. A little bit later, my sister-in-law and I get the call that food is ready, so we go outside and I see my kids each have a little cup full of M&Ms that they are eating. I told my kids that they knew they were not supposed to be eating those and took away the cups. My mother-in-law comes over and says that she gave them the M&Ms and that they can have them. To which I replied, no, they can't. It's dinner time. You were there when I told them no. Mother-in-law says again that they can have some chocolate, it's fine, and tries to take the cups out of my hands. We go back and forth, prompting my wife to start walking over to us just in time to hear her mother say in front of our kids, I'm saying it's okay. They aren't even your kids. They're my daughters. Just give them the chocolate. My wife had her mom repeat herself and said something like, absolutely not, we are leaving. I put the M&Ms on the nearest table, grabbed both kids, who were now softly crying, and started to pack our stuff. The whole event erupted into chaos. Father-in-law screaming about the disrespect of us leaving, grandmother crying, brother-in-law and his wife arguing with their father-in-law, mother-in-law crying that her only daughter is abandoning her. It's a mess. After a couple hours at home, the kids seemed okay, but mother-in-law saying I'm not their mom really scared them. My wife spent about 4 hours on rotating phone calls with all of her family, from father-in-law screaming at her, mother-in-law crying over how we took her grandkids away over M&Ms and made her out to be the bad grandma, brother-in-law trying to get in the drama, grandmother depressed saying she would die without seeing her great-grandkids again. My wife's message to all of them was that mother-in-law needed to apologize to me and to our children for what she said. We made it clear that we would have no problem spending time with grandma and brother-in-law's family, but we would not bring the kids around my mother-in-law until she apologized. As you can guess, the apology hasn't happened, but the phone calls of guilt trips, yelling and crying have not let up. I feel an apology is not even a big deal, and at this point, mother-in-law is making the choice not to see her grandkids. I want to hold firm, but I know how hard this all is on my wife, even if I really don't think it's my fault. Am I the asshole for insisting for an apology? Am I the asshole for making my germaphobe husband change our baby's diaper? My husband and I have a 2-month-old together. He does everything almost except changing diapers. He's a hardcore germaphobe, so I handle the dirty part of our son's care. So my husband's been pestering me about the faces I make when changing our son's diapers, telling me to smile all the time. I told him to leave me alone, and it's easy for him to say when he's not the one dealing with the smell. But every time I'm in the middle of changing diapers, my husband would show up out of nowhere like he busted me or something and tell me that the faces I keep making have an impact on our son's emotional state and I should smile. I told him to leave me alone. He knows how difficult this is for me but does nothing to help. Instead, just mocks me and keeps pestering me. I said if he ever tries to hassle me again with just smile bullcrap, then he'll start handling the diaper changes himself. Last night around 9, he was in the kitchen already eating dinner without me and not waiting while I was getting ready to change my son's diaper. He came into the room with his mouth full of food and once again commented on how my face looked and for me to smile and show love and to stop causing harm to our son's emotional health. I snapped. I walked up to him and told him that he ran out of chance to stop his annoying behavior and he should start handling diaper changes from now on and we'll see how big his smile will be. His tone changed immediately and he said that we both agreed that I'd be the one handling diaper changes even before our son was born and that I already know too well what his reason is. He's a germaphobe, yes, but he's also a parent. What type of parent never changes their baby's diaper? I handed him the stuff and asked him to enjoy it while I kept standing to watch how he would do it. It took him forever. As I expected, he made all types of disgusted, gross-out faces, and for a minute, I thought he was going to throw up. When he was finished, I told him he lost the smiling contest with those faces he made. He was pissed and rushed to wash his hands, complaining about how I'm trying to get him to do everything and that I ruined his appetite by having him experience that. I replied and said he hasn't seen anything yet, and asked, since he wants us to have 4 kids, how he will be handling the other 3. He said he changed his mind and only wants 2. But still, my point stands. He tried to argue that I'm not taking his germophobia seriously and what I forced him to do wasn't cool. He's been upset since then and has given me the silent treatment. So, am I the asshole? Four years ago, I broke up with my boyfriend Dan, but I decided not to tell him. Dan had been coming around to my apartment and my work even though I repeatedly told him I was not interested. I had been planning to move to get away from him and I didn't want him to have an excuse to be in my life. So when I moved away, I didn't tell him I was pregnant and I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Last year when my daughter was 2, I got married and my husband adopted her. Dan and my sister were still friends in high school, and since Dan still lives in my hometown, they occasionally catch up. A week ago, Dan called me and said that he found out through my sister that I'd been pregnant not long after we broke up. He was furious that I had never told him and that the baby might be his and accused me of keeping him away from his daughter. I told my husband and he's furious that I never told him about my daughter's father. He was always under the impression that her father hadn't wanted to be in the picture, and he's been cold to me ever since I told him. I do not ever want Dan around my daughter, and I think I was justified in my decision to protect her from him. But Dan keeps calling and asking to see his daughter, and my husband says I betrayed both him and Dan by lying about this. Am I the asshole for not wanting to be the babysitter at my friend's wedding? So I, 22 female, love babies. I've always wanted kids, but I want to wait until I'm married to have them. I don't mind watching kids at all, but I dread going to an event and everyone just dumping their kids on me just because they know I like kids. Last month, my friend and a couple of others had lunch together to plan more of her wedding. I was at work and I was unable to attend. They decided that since I was okay with watching the bride's child, I should be okay with watching everyone else's kids too. They decided to set up a daycare-like area at the venue where I would watch the kids. I didn't even know they planned this until yesterday. I told my friend, the bride, that I would only watch her kid. That's all I agreed to. She argued that since I work in pediatrics and I actually like kids, I should have no problem handling 7 to 10 kids. I told her no, I only agreed to watch her child because it was her wedding. I tried to reason and say that if the other parents were willing to pay me for watching their kids, then I would be fine with it. But she said she didn't want to make them pay for something that should be free. Am I the asshole? I kind of feel like one now because she said there are 2 families that aren't coming because they were under the impression